Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. Mosh Monday. Hope you had a nice weekend. Got a little bit of a cold spell going on here in New York. It almost feels like winter. We've had such a mild winter. Oh, we've been blessed this winter. It's been great. So if every winter was like this, it'd be awesome. Couple things to get to. We got a lot of things to get to today. It's going to be a good episode. First thing I want to talk about, we'll do a little not so much a rant, but an observation. I'd like to talk a little bit about bulk packaging. I had a laugh yesterday. It was Valentine's Day, and I was thinking about bulk packaging because there's two types of bulk packaging. One is when you get like a lot of items in a package, like how toilet paper or paper towels come in those huge 24, 48, roll packages. That's one form of bulk packaging. But another type is kind of a little bit on the deceptive side. You might have remembered, when you get a big package and there's not a lot of material or product in it. It's kind of, and this has been going on for a long time. And what I find funny about it is, as you get older, you don't get as upset about it anymore because you have learned. You don't look at the size of the package. You look at the ounces. And then there's 2 ounces. There's two weights. Sometimes it's the net weight and the gross weight you have to look at. And but it's been going on for a long time. And I understand manufacturers do it to try and compete. But it's funny when you look at it and you say, man, that the extent that they'll go to try and make their product seem more. Let me show you.
Now, there's an old saying that says, don't blame the player, blame the game. And basically what that means is, shame on you if you don't know about these things. But I thought I would bring it because I remember years ago we learned this in school. But here's that second type of deceptive bulk packaging I was talking about. Now, when you see this like Valentine's Day heart, they sell this. Now, you remember they used to come in different sizes, the hearts, as they still do. They used to have the small ones that were about like this, and then the slightly bigger. And this would be like the, pretty big one. And then they had the huge ones. And we've been buying these for our mothers, our girlfriends, our wives since you started making some money and you can do it. But here's what I thought was amazing. You look at this packaging. First of all, you see here this little lip here on both sides. Now, that's a little bit deceptive too because that adds almost an inch to the size of the heart without any interior volume, you see? So because that's wrapped with a red cellophane, you remember? And when you open this up, remember the candies used to come in those little wax cups, those corrugated brown wax paper cups, and it was stacked in here. Now you look at a box this size and you say, wow, probably a lot of candies in here. This is where I had a laugh, and I thought you might get a kick out of it too. Of course, you have this nice, I always like this, here that protects the candy, whatever. But look inside here. This has to be, to me, like the ultimate for bulk packaging. I mean, some guy spent a lot of time figuring out how could they get the least amount of candies in here and make it look like it. This whole box only holds 11 pieces of candy. And you could see, obviously all the in between. You got, over an inch of space between each one. Remember, they used to be packed in that, you had to kind of reach in. And sometimes you would leave the little corrugated wax rolls. And anyway, I just thought this was funny. And I was wondering if you've ever been hit by bulk packaging lately and who's the biggest offenders these days. But I just thought this was a kick because, like I said, here it is. You buy this box in 11 pieces, Wow, awesome.
Okay, next up, on Friday's video, man, I never seen the commenters, the subscribers, so on board. Usually you get people, they say, go this way, go that. There's always man, everybody was on the same page for that bulldog. Everybody said, leave it alone, paint the collar red. So let's take a look.
And here we go. There it is. The bulldog is left silver. I'm not going to clear coat it because this, I'll tell you, don't feel like it's going to get, but if I do notice it's starting to get oxidized or something, then I will clear coat it. But right now it looks like it'll stay the way it is. And there it is with the red. And I even left the buckle, a little bit of silver around the buckle to show that it was. But there it is. So the Scout Crafter Red on the Bulldog, your request, and I answered.
Okay, next up, I can't tell you how much I'm shocked that everybody was on board. Like I said, not only with the color, but I'm really impressed that everybody did enjoy something a little bit different. It's, you know, you're not just tool heads. You know, everybody out there does enjoy something a little bit different. And getting with that, a good friend of the show, Stuart G from Australia, he sent me an email during the last couple weeks ago about his gas can. He had an unusual gas can. Wanted to know if I've ever seen anything like it here in the States. And I have seen something like it, but let me show you a couple gas cans. Gas cans are collectible, just like tins are. They're getting a little bit collectible, and I do like gas cans. Maybe some of you do. Let me show you some of mine. Now, the funny thing is, here in the States, back in 2009, the government made a blunder, but they won't admit it, but they came out with this regulations, the gas can regulations. Now, anybody that's ever used a gas can before knows. They came out with this. It has to be ventless, and I understand, you know, what they're trying to get to, but the regulations, they just caused a lot of problems, and I'll show you.
Now, many years ago, a typical gas can would look something like this. It was this is a galvanized type can. It's these little ribs here, although it might look decorative, they actually do help support and give a firmness and a rigidity to the can. So they aren't just decorative, but all these seams around here, that's what they do. They give rigidity to the can. They were well made and very decorative too. You know, they had a wire candle handle, carrying handle. The fill spout here had a hexagon little imprint on top that if it did get stuck, you could put a wrench on it to loosen it, but they very rarely got stuck. And you know, you could fill it up here, had a little pour spout here. You would hold it like this. There was a little lip under here you could grab, and you could fill up your gas. Your implements, your lawn mowers, you know, things like that. There was nothing wrong with this can. And later on, I guess in the 70s, they started coming out with plastic cans. The early plastic cans were, but then later on, the polyethylenes, the plastics came out really good. The plastic cans were fine. They didn't dent up and everything was good until they came out with that regulation in 2009 where they screwed everything up. But that's a nice looking, efficient little can here. Now, another style of gas can that I found pretty interesting. This one had a lower profile. These were great for boats and things, outboard motors and things like that. What's interesting about this can is it also has the same kind of cap, and but with the spout here, and they duplicated this on the plastic cans that came out later on, which were great. There was never a problem until 2009. And you see here, if you unscrew this here, this cap here, you could see there's a cork gasket, you know, on the inside. There's a cork gasket here. But also, what you do is you'd screw this out. Here was the spout. You would unscrew this little cap here. Just unscrew it like this. And then you would place this onto here, onto this side, and that would give you your spout for filling up small containers or lawnmowers, things like that. When you were finished, replace this here, and then put this spout back on here. And again, like I said, the plastic ones that were like this were fantastic. Let me show you one thing that is really important when you have any kind of metal gas can. If you want these caps to operate properly. Many times with these metal caps, and you'll notice it on old lanterns, things like that, sometimes they get a little sticky, and you'll see sometimes they're hard to get on and off, and that's because gasoline is a horrible lubricant, you know. So what you want to do is every once in a while, what you had to do is you had to do maintenance, and the best thing was you got some 3-in-1 oil, and you put a little 3-in-1 oil on just a small piece of paper towel, and you wipe the inside of the caps, and also you wipe the spout, and watch how easy that works when I try and put it back on. Okay, now that we oiled and cleaned the inside of this cap and also the spout, now you can see how smooth. See that? That is just beautiful. And that you have to oil your metal threads, or else they don't operate the way they should. Unless, of course, there's oil in the container, then it'll do it itself. But anytime you have gas or petrol or something, you have to put a drop of oil on that cap to make sure it operates right. Now, last up, I have a couple of these. Just Right is the name brand, and these are, I don't know what these were used for, because the capacity, this one here probably has, I would have to say, less than a quart, you know, maybe half a quart. So maybe this one here is a little over a quart. You know, the small capacity. You could see here, this one had a brass tag on it, but I guess it was painted from the factory, and it's just right. These are safety cans, and the reason they call them safety cans is you could see that the lid is spring-loaded. When you pull back on the handle, it opens and closes the lid. Okay, now I'm trying to see which one you would think is an older can. This one here has that old-time red. If you notice, the colors are red. This is an orangey red. This is more of a deep red. And they're both patent applied for. This spring on here is much stronger than the other one. And you can see here how this would work. Now, they had a built-in funnel in there that was like a screen. You can see it better in this one here. It's kind of a hexagon, that I guess that's how you took it. But there was a built-in screen. And what these were used for, I have no idea. You know, small things of fuel if you had to carry maybe some kerosene or anything flammable, whatever, that you can fill up a lantern or something. But it was, again, you would probably use a funnel. But these have become quite collectible, and they're a nice can. You know, they're well designed, well made, and they're not cheap. But just thought you might find those interesting. Now, I don't know why I find this still fascinating, but even all kinds of metal cans. Years ago, you could go, and if you needed a quart of oil or something, you could go to a gas station. You would go with an open container, and they would pump it out of a 55-gallon drum into, you know, and measure out a quart. And this is also how you would put them in at gas stations, things like that. If you needed a quart of oil, they would take this, put a quart in, and dump it in your car. And remember the old metal funnels, you know? Here's a funnel with a very flexible steel spout. You remember we used to have to add transmission fluid when you could do that? And also the big funnels. Remember these? They still make these out of metal and stuff, and I find these, you know, fascinating. Again, you know, if you wanted to fill up, I love metal funnels. I just, and if you ever seen guys tinsmiths that make this kind of stuff, that's a lost art. Okay, one of my most used items in the shop, believe it or not, is a pair of scissors. I use scissors all the time. I saw these at they were $1, and they look like a quality pair. You know, there was some Asian knockoffs, and you could tell, like, you could tell them as soon as you feel them. Like, I don't know what kind of cast metal they use, but this feels like a quality pair, and it does have some kind of a marking over here. You see that right there at the tip of my thumb? I don't know what that is. So, before we do anything, let's do a quick wire brush and check out and see what we got. Okay, we only did a real light wire brush because we want to take them apart, obviously. Now, you can see here, that's a PEXTO brand. PEXTO is a great brand. These are the model 82. Nice deep stamping on the 82, but not too deep on the PEXTO, so we got to be careful with that. And as you can see here, when you move the one side, so this side is the rivet's staying the same. The bolt is, this side's floating, and this side is, you can see here, it seems like it's attached, so there's probably some kind of mechanism in there. So we're going to heat this up because it looked like it might be a little bit peened over. We're going to heat it up with the propane torch and then try and loosen that nut off there and see if it'll come apart. Now you can see here, we just hit it with a little bit of heat, nothing to get it hot, change the temperature and temper. And then I used a 6-point socket. And when I heat it up, I used just a squirt of that 50/50 ATF and acetone, and you could see that popped right off. Look at that. Now you can see that I was right. There's a square hole here, which is holding that on. And now we'll just tap that out. You know, we'll tap that nut out, and then okay, here we go. You can see it came right out, and you can see there's a little bit of crud on there, but we'll clean all this up, and then get it back together. See what it looks like. Now here we are at the real post-wire brush evaluation, where we spent a little bit of time getting it down to the way it was. This is what it would have come out from the factory. Now it was painted up to this point here. You know, the handles were painted, which was a good idea because the oil, the sweat, the hand salt would always rust these if you left them bare metal. So they usually painted scissors, the handles. As for here, if you look closely here, one thing you have to remember, there's a lot of pitting in here. You can see deep pitting. on both sides, you know. These were, you know, obviously left out or something, but these blades are hollow ground. So what that means is both sides have a little dip in the middle, like they're a curve. And you can see that if you hold up a straight edge over here. Let me get the light so you can see it. Okay, now if you look here, when I put this against it, if you look right about where the 1-inch mark is, you see there's a dip in there. That's a hollow ground. So that means it's not touching in the middle where the number 1 inch is, but it's touching on the edges. And that's so that the scissors will cut and not wear on each other. So you never want to make these flat. So you gotta, you know, this is where it becomes a challenge. I've ruined many a pair of scissors when I was a kid trying to sharpen them. My grandmother would give me a pair of scissors and she'd say, throw these out. And I'd say, wait, I could sharpen them. I'd ruin them. So you have to remember, keep that in mind. These are hollow ground. And you also have to, sharpening scissors is a skill. Much harder than sharpening a knife. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Let's see if we don't mess these up. Now I'm using the angle grinder here because the round profile of the sanding disc is perfect. It's just like that curvature of the blade, the hollow grind. So I just did it to clean up the inside. I won't be able to get all the pits out. Okay, now we got rid of a lot of pits. You can do a lot out here, but you can't too much in here. Remember, you can't change that contour. So some of those pits are going to have to remain because I can't take too much out. I mean, I got thickness in the metal, but it'll change everything. So you can do outside, you can polish out here and make this all nice and pretty, but when it comes to the inside of the shears here, and this is, you have to make this part flat here. You see, you have to keep that angle. See that? Now, to test it out, you put it back together like we did. I was able to save most of the PEXTO here. And then you try cutting it on something like, you know, here's wax paper. That's always pretty difficult to cut. But look how nice that cuts, right? And then, of course, the hard part, you can cut this nylon stranded string here, this twine, and you can see how nicely that cuts. So, you know, we did a really good job in sharpening it up. It's a nice pair of scissors. Now all we have to do is our final, well, what we're going to do here, we'll do a little shellacking, we'll do a little polishing, and then we'll paint it and come back and see what we got. Now you know my favorite part. Remember what these shears look like before we started. And we're calling this project done, or maybe not. I just shellacked the handles. We're running a little bit late on the show today, but what I want to do is leave it up to you. You can see it works fine. It's beautiful. From here down was normally painted. It's been shellacked, and you could leave it just like this. This is fine. It doesn't chip. It wears good. Shellac is always a great coating. However, if you think it would be better in a different color from here down, any color you want, just leave it in the comments, and the winner, I will do it. Or I could leave it the way it is. So thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Take care. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.